Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the PMI UAE Chapter webinar. I'm hearing that my background is inverted. Is it, Priya?
No, I see you fine.
Okay. Okay. Let me see that. Olumide, my colleague from the back end, could you please enable the chat so they can say hi to us, please, and let us know where they are coming from.
All right.
Which country they are joining from. There you are. Hi, Abdul Khan. Okay, it's already 7:01, and we can give another 4 minutes, Priya, to let the others join, okay? We have Naveen from Dubai, Biju from Dubai, Chaitanya, Abu Dhabi. Hello.
Yes.
Amal from Kuwait.
Oh.
Nagaraj from Abu Dhabi. We have someone, Hafiz from Sharjah. So we have attendees coming from the different parts of the UAE. Wilson, Abu Dhabi. Sujit, Sharjah, hello. Shanas, hi. Another Abu Dhabi, Sayed, and Dubai, Taha. Okay, let me check the other attendees. Okay, someone sent me a chat message again that my background is inverted. Can anyone tell me on the chat, please, if you're seeing my PMI, very beautiful PMI background, if it's properly in place or it is reversed?
No, I see it on your, I see it fine.
Yes, it is properly. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we have the last 1 minute. Thank you, everyone, for, yes, it's clear that event. Thank you very much. Okay, so almost there. So I will start sharing my screen. And we should be ready in a minute. So, okay, I should start now. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, we welcome you to another fruitful and productive webinar brought to you by PMI UAE Chapter. Tonight's webinar is about the importance of good program management in cybersecurity, which will be delivered by Ms. Priyanka Chatterjee, the co-founder of Sinevis. She is also one of the key founder or co-founder of Women in Cybersecurity Middle East. But before we introduce her, please allow us, as a usual protocol, to introduce, especially for those new attendees in this webinar, about the PMI. So as you know, the Project Management Institute work on behalf of the project managers to improve the profession of PMPs worldwide. That's why, as a part of that, there are different chapters in different countries all over the world. And we are proud to say that the PMI UAE chapter is the top 5% of the chapters globally in terms of members. We are also growing day by day because we have open opportunities for volunteering and open membership for this chapter. We are passionate about the project management, professional and personal development, networking, and education. We are dependent on you, our members, and also our volunteers, especially those who are attending here, to make this webinar very invigorating as possible. There is a chat box which is available in the Q&A, wherein you can throw questions for the speaker. At the end of the webinar, we will read these questions, and Priyanka, our speaker, will be very enthusiastic to answer your questions. The benefits of being member of a PMI UAE chapter are the 4 pillars. We have the networking, learning and knowledge sharing, career growth, and events. This one you are attending right now is a part of the diversified webinars. Our collaborators and partners are, you can see them here, and they are also growing and expanding. They are our supporters in all our activities, including knowledge sharing and conferences. For this webinar, you will receive one strategic PDU, which will automatically be added to your account, and it will take about 4 weeks to get them added. Please engage with the panelists through the Q&A, and please note that PDUs will not be awarded if you will leave the webinar earlier than it ends. And if you don't receive your PDUs after 4 weeks, please send an email to info@pmiuae.org. And to find out more about our upcoming events, you can visit our website at pmiuae.org or follow us on our social media pages in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Okay, so now I will introduce to you our very esteemed speaker. Priyanka is a co-founder and director of operations and services at Sinevis, that's her waving her hand, a global professional services organization providing a cybersecurity technology consulting and managed services. She is also one of the co-founders of Women in Cybersecurity Middle East, or WIXMI. She has been named as one of the top 10 Indian women leaders in the Middle East in 2021 and holds a number of industry standard certifications. She is also a mentor to a few young professional girls, men and women in India and Middle East. With over 18 years of experience in cybersecurity, technology, and risk management across multiple industries in 20 plus countries, she is a big advocate of making cybersecurity and overall risk management part of the business strategy and processes, and not as a standalone activity, expecting businesses stakeholders to reach out to security teams as a tick-back exercise for change approval or only when something goes wrong. So without any further ado, our PMI members and guests, please welcome Priyanka Chatterjee. The virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you so much for the great introduction. And thank you so much, everyone, for taking out the time in your day. Okay, so let's get started with this. So today, I just wanted to kind of share some of my experiences around real life program management in cybersecurity, right? So, and the reason kind of I volunteered to do this is because I see a lot of good project management, good of program management in the IT world and in the business process world. But when I look back at how well we do it in cybersecurity, that's kind of, we can do better situation. So I thought that, I have recently experienced some of the good examples, have seen a lot of not so good examples, and I thought I'll just take this opportunity to share some real life experience here, yeah? So let me go ahead and start this. So we'll spend the next couple of minutes kind of talking about, so I always like to start with a problem statement. Yeah, and then we'll see how I see the project management coming to rescue towards that problem statement. And we'll then head straight into a real life case study where I have personally experienced the magic that project and program management can bring and make the cybersecurity kind of transformation come to life in a good way. Yeah. And then we'll kind of towards the end, we'll touch upon some of the things that we just need to be mentally conscious of about as we kind of live the day of a program manager or project manager in the industry of cybersecurity. Yeah, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A, and that's that. And like Irene mentioned, please put on your questions on the chat or through the Q&A option, and we'll take them towards the end. Okay, so without further delays, then let's look at the problem statement in the world of cybersecurity. Okay, and while I do this, if those of you who can, if you can just put on the chat box if you belong to the IT world of project management or the business world of it, and if you are one of our cybersecurity peers, then that'll be perfect. So I'll go through them in a bit. Yeah. Now, the world of cybersecurity, right? So it is rapidly evolving. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of articles every day keeps coming, right? But what's happening and why there is so much noise, so much stress? There's like hundreds of articles saying professionals in cybersecurity are super stressed and all of that stuff. Because what we often find and see is that very well-intended decisions around making the cybersecurity investment, management says, oh, we'll bring this new solution, we'll create a new process, we'll have a new team. So they do a lot of investments through the year, right? But they go wrong just because of poor execution. Yeah. So the intent doesn't translate to a real good execution and value realization on the ground. And being in an industry where you have countless number of vendors, they're just kind of busy plugging in the product within your environment and kind of just leaving, expecting that the customer themselves will take care of the maturity. Yeah. And then one of the big challenges that I see on an ongoing basis with most of the customers is that they expect the security operations teams who are neither well equipped nor have the bandwidth to navigate the various organizational complexities, and they are not necessarily experts in program or project management either, right? So they are specialists in running the operations, but they struggle to navigate organizational complexities. And this is no comment to anyone specific. We have a lot of good people within it, but the operations team is not the best place for transformation. Yeah. Now, coming to how I view project management coming to rescue towards these problem statements, right? And to this, I always look at it as 5 W's and 1 H. And this, for the seasoned project managers here, you probably understand that this is kind of a standard way of doing things, but in cybersecurity, this is kind of quite a big gap, and that still needs to we need to do a lot of effort to fill this, right? Where the biggest challenge we have is we have a lot of solutions, but we don't know what we want to achieve out of it, right? So the first is define the value. What is it that we want to or need to achieve? Yeah. Then once we have the value defined, we go to how do we want to reach there? Does it need anything special? Is it something we can handle what we have today, or how is it that we're going to get there? Then next is, who is it that we need to get? Do we need my IT person? Do I need my security guard? Do I need my CEO, the chief financial officer? Who is it that I need to make this transformation really work? Yeah. And also to establish why do we need to involve them? Yeah. We may want to, if it's a software, we may want to talk to IT. If it's a process, do we want to go to the process excellence team? And what is it that we want from them, right? And then the key piece is timing. From a timing perspective, because the project has a life cycle, at what point in the project or the program do we want to bring these people in? because not everyone would be useful or can add value at every single piece of the project. Yeah, unless you are kind of the owning the project and stuff. Okay, so and kind of when we are defining the value, it is very, very critical to think, understand, and lay down if it's a people problem, if it's a process problem, or is it a technology problem. Yeah, and this should happen before you go on and start doing the investment, right? And it could be part of the problem, part of the solution, but we need to think what part of the equation where we need to kind of focus on. Okay, so this is kind of from an approach perspective where I see that if we do a better job at project and program management, we would be the professionals within cybersecurity would be a lot less stressed, I would say. Okay, and they can justify the value that they're adding a lot more easier. Okay, so now we'll head straight into a case study. And so I took the liberty to choose a use case around the logging and monitoring rollout. And the pure reason I took this is because when I talk to my customers, when I talk to my peers, and when I talk to a lot of my mentors, this is one of the most kind of stressful or most common challenges I see across organizations, where they say that, oh, Priyanka, we have a SIM, but we don't know what our coverage is, we don't know how to do it, and all of that other stuff, right? So I thought that probably is a good idea to take this as a case study, because it would benefit a large part of the organizations, and some of you can take it back, at least something out of the session back to your organizations, right? Okay, so back to the case study. The target we had, or the purpose of the project, was to enable logging and monitoring. And for those who are not from the IT world, the logging and monitoring is basically, it's a mechanism of the system recording what is going on with the system, right? And then it is getting used by the different teams, the security teams and the IT teams, to kind of, for troubleshooting perspective, for monitoring perspectives, to identify what's going on in the system. Yeah, so that if there's an incident, if there's a problem, your system is down, they can go back and check what happened, and then they can kind of take corrective or reactive actions accordingly. So that's kind of the purpose of the project. And our target was to enable the logging and monitoring for about 10,000 odd databases, both in cloud and on premises, which work very, very differently within a very short span of 6 months. Typically, a logging and monitoring project would go on for 2 to 3 years within an organization. But in this situation, we had a very short time span of 6 months. And not only the solution, the technology part of it, the management for this particular organization, they put the challenge that I need to see, or I need you, the project team, to demonstrate the value of all this investment, the technology, the time spent by the people, everything within these 6 months. Yeah, so you have a technology challenge, and then you have a value challenge here in this case, right? And so kind of just looking at everything, it was quite evident right at the start that, oh my God, this is going to require immense amount of structuring, because if you have to touch upon 10,000 odd databases, which means it's probably going to touch the entire data center, all of the business units, whole lot of different people, different skill sets, all of that kind of stuff, right? So it means bringing pretty much the entire organization together and trying to achieve this within 6 months, which was, so we kind of started with a little bit of thinking, and the emoji is basically my emotions when I kind of first sat on the first project call saying, this is what we have to do. And I was thinking that, can we do it, kind of thinking, right? So that was a big doubt in my mind. So now we said, okay, if that is what we have to do, we have to first define where do we want to head to. And like I said, I always start with what do we want to achieve? What is that value, right? So my first situation was that we define the roadmap. Yeah, and I know this this diagram can look busy, but let me give it a few minutes to kind of for you to just look through this, and I'll explain here as I go, right? So here I'll start from the bottom. So here this arrow, it shows the technology coverage. So this was kind of the product piece of it, the project. All the different people here on the center of the screen. So you see we define them into different layers as they go within the organization. So you have different operational teams. You have a team which works at a strategic level, your managers, your senior managers and VPs, and then you have the oversight layer, which is kind of your C levels and boards and stuff, yeah. And what we also realized is, when we look at stakeholders, there are people who would support the project as we deliver, and there will be a set of stakeholders who will consume what comes out of the project, yeah. So there might be some common teams which both support and consume from the solution, but then it was important for us to understand who do we need in the room, right? Because even within the same team, so if, for example, if you see the DBAs being both a supporter and a consumer here, you may have different people or different skill set requirements for that, right? So we said, let's plan out what is it that we want to achieve. So these arrows here on the outside, so this is the technology. This is the need to establish communication across the different layers. And then you have the need for collaboration between the supporters and the consumers. So this is how you kind of say that, yeah, this is my cycle of the delivery or the roadmap would look like. Yeah, and here we have mapped out the stakeholders. So yes, this took quite a lot of work. A few weeks of effort went into to identify what is it that we want to do, who do we want in the room, and all of that kind of stuff. But this is kind of what our roadmap ended up looking like. Okay. Now, if I kind of move from here, now the roadmap is defined, right? So where we want to end up being. Now the question was how and who and all of that other pieces around execution and creating the value that we want to achieve. Yeah. So here, if you look, we have two axes, right? So it was, again, so one is just pure technology piece. So you go, you roll out and you enable all the logging. So that's just the technology piece, working with the technology teams around that, both with the vendor and our internal IT teams, right? Then you have the bigger mishmash is the business operations transformation. And when I say business, it's not necessarily like the customer facing business, but it's more kind of the compliance, legal, all of the other kind of the process side of things, right? That would interact. So this is kind of the consumer piece of it. This is the supporter piece of it, if you can relate to our the roadmap diagram. And then this is kind of our project, kind of progress tracking trajectory. Okay, so that's so these are just kind of sample stuff here. So we put a plan and we had a deployment calendar as well, saying, okay, so this is how we want to progress. So here you see we spent kind of the first 3-4 weeks around planning, just talking through things, brainstorming what's the value, who do we need in the room, what processes are we going to follow. So a lot of questions, a lot of discussions, a lot of movement there around week 1 and 3, right? And then we kind of started doing the actual deployment on the technology, and then it kind of kept moving, and the target is to kind of at the end of 6 months reach that 10K target. Now this is just the technology piece as it kind of moves, right? But here on the left, you'll see that I've put some samples. I cannot possibly put everything, but this just gives you an idea of the trajectory on how we are slowly kind of moving on the business operations side, transformation side as well. So first is we just start collecting and kind of just start getting a feel of it, like you said. Yeah, so we started getting a feel for it. Then we started putting processes together. Once we got a feel of what it looks like, we said, okay, what we need to do, security operations, what do you need? Mr. Compliance, what do you need? Miss Audit, what do you need? And all of that stuff. So we had a lot of discussions around the process side of it, what needs to change, what needs to stay, and all of that. Then we focused on the training and enablement piece, because obviously with every new process and new technology, you will need the training and enablement so that things can actually run once the project team leaves. Then we are now kind of at soft launch, and then we will plan for the business transition, right? So that's kind of how we said that, okay, we need to keep both the trajectories together around the business transformation and the technology side as well. And this is kind of the one of the biggest gaps that I see today, you know, with most of our clients or kind of our friends and peers, where when we discuss about this, the challenge here, we are talking about the case study, is that everyone kind of drives crazy around just, oh, I need to get the technology deployed, right? But then everyone forgets about the business operations until after year 2. And by the time you've already kind of lost the value that the system could have generated. Yeah. So what we said is that because we are talking about the value upfront, we were able to say that, okay, the technology experts go and deploy the technology, process experts and the business units, let's come and start creating the value, execute the things that we need to create the value out of it, right? So it's kind of that. So this is like cooking your food, and this is like making sure that the table is ready, making sure you have the right menu card printed and everything else. So those things need to happen in parallel. Otherwise, kind of you would see that you may have or you would have an imbalance of where things land. You might have a great process, but then no technology, or you may have absolute great technology, but no business operations to kind of tap into that value. And then what happened is, after the 3-year subscription ends, someone in the management said, oh, this tool doesn't work. And then, you know what comes, the next vendor comes and they go through the same cycle for the next 3 years. So that kind of becomes a vicious cycle. So we did not want to do that. And because I have experienced that quite enough, I say, well, enough is enough. Let's focus on getting the value right from the start. Okay, so that's kind of a big game changer that we kind of brought together in this case study. And where we are in terms of with the 10 weeks left is we already have 85% of the databases covered, which is very, very great in terms if we do a comparison of similar projects industry-wide. Then we already have the business processes defined. We already have the trainings and stuff going on, and it's already ready for soft launch. And we said we don't want to do a big bang and then kind of fall on our face. We'll do a soft launch and kind of go from process 1, 2, 3, and then go on, and then get ready for the business as usual handover or the operational handover. So in this case, you know what, during the journey, what was, I mean, the one key observation that I made, you know, was that we did not create a feeling of frustration, which I see very often in a lot of cyber transformation projects, is the delivery teams start becoming very frustrated because they're not getting the right response, they're not getting the right support and everything. And because we, as security professionals, we are more adapt to kind of react to situations instead of thinking it through or doing things more proactively, especially from a deployment perspective, right? We'll think about the platform guy when I need a virtual machine, not thinking it a week before. And so that way it can be, we ourselves create a lot of pressure on ourselves. So, but in this process, because we were thinking about the value, thinking about the stakeholders, thinking about everything right from the start, and there was quite a good structure we had put in place, we were able to achieve all this in such a short period of time. But the amount of frustration we had in the project team was almost negligible. Yeah, and everyone was kind of motivated that, yeah, I know exactly the value that I'm adding here. I'm needed only for 10 minutes. That's it. I've done my job. Thank you so much, Mr. Project Manager. I'm gone. Yeah. So that's kind of a very, very positive response and feedback that I saw, and especially in such a large deployment, because by the time we usually finish this by 2-3 years, either the program manager would have changed, the technology guy definitely changes, and then everyone ends up like, okay, let's just get done with it, right? So we are not at that bad stage, so which is a good success criteria, indicator from my perspective. And some of the key drivers, right? So this is all nice and fine, but what I also wanted to share is some of the key things that we did to actually achieve this. Is we used a lot of automation. For those who are in your IT, who from the IT world, if your organization can, please do encourage them to use automation for transformation projects. Very wonderful. And this makes a lot of the process deployment piece very, very easy. Then we did a lot of parallel executions with specialists, or both on the business process and on the technology side, right? So when someone from compliance was defining the process around what kind of logs they want to see and what kind of reports they want to see, we had the technology specialists going and kind of enabling the logging and monitoring on, say, the PCI DSS kind of servers and all of the other that compliance requires. So we had a lot of parallel execution going on. And what we also did, because typically the program or project management discussions, they focus so much on, there's a lot of tasks that needs to happen in parallel. So it can get a little muddled. So what we did is we kept one very focused meeting every year, just talking about the deployment calendar, nothing else. Not talking about, okay, what's the next task in line and everything. So we purely just looked at the deployment calendar for the next 2 to 3 weeks and saying, what is it looking like? Is it looking good? Is it not looking good? Are we in control? What are the risks and stuff like that, right? So everything else goes on, but this 1 hour, we just look at the calendar and see what is it that we are doing, how are we feeling, what needs to happen. Yeah, so so out of this meeting we come up with very, very concrete, very small, well-defined tasks. Say that, okay, get me this list, someone check this connection, someone do this. So 3 tasks, and that kind of makes it easier for whoever is executing, saying, okay, Miss A do this, Mr. A do that, and the next person does the next activity, right? And what we also did is we did not leave the leadership slip. We said, no, Mr. and Miss Leadership, please come in, and then we need you to attend our weekly meetings where it was progress, and so that we can take on any of the sponsorship, any of the leadership support we needed upfront without waiting for it to become a big problem. And then we kind of have to write a big memo and saying, oh, you know what, we had this issue for the last 5 weeks, and then now we're in a situation where it's kind of beyond control. So we did not do that. We said, okay, we are foreseeing this issue, or we faced this issue recently. Leadership, we need your support. And obviously we go with options of what is it that we are asking from them. But some things are beyond the operational level. We all understand some things are beyond our pay grade, as they say. So we did not say, well, we said, well, if you want us to deliver, we need you to be in the room to make decisions. Yeah, so that's kind of all the different things, and it was not easy to bring all the people together, but yeah, with some structure, with a good thought process, with good stakeholder engagement, we were able to do this. Okay, now I'm going to take a breather here. And for those who are not in the cybersecurity world, I just want to kind of say here that we do not really need to be a cybersecurity expert to drive a cybersecurity program. Okay, and because that's a very common question that I see on pretty much every social media, that how do I enter the field of cybersecurity? So if you are a great project program manager, please do give this a try. And you don't need to prove that, oh, I have managed a security program, I have done this and I have done that. No, that's not necessary. If someone is asking you that, then, well, there's not a good hire. That's all I'm going to say, because a good program manager or a project manager, their key skill set from my perspective is they should be able to ask the relevant questions. Yeah, and no question is stupid. I mean, no one can know everything about everything. So you should be able and feel empowered and confident enough to just ask questions like, what do we want to achieve? By when do we want to do this? How are we going to do this? Because one thing that we usually kind of miss on a lot of project plans and schedules, is that we know what task needs to be done, but there is not 100% clarity between the project teams of how to go about that, what process to follow, where should I raise the request. So some very basic things, and they kind of just create so much of unnecessary tension and delays in the project plans, right? So ask those questions, make sure that the people who are supposed to take the actions understand exactly what is it that they need to do. Yeah. And one thing is, don't be too nice. Yeah, so I've met enough of nice project managers, and I was one of them in the past, right? So because I come from a technology I started in technology, then I moved to risk management. So at the start of my career, I was kind of quite nice. I still am professional. I don't use bad language, but being too nice doesn't get things done. Okay, when needed, you do have to stand your ground. You have to kind of speak out, saying, you know what, thank you, we can have dinner, but you need to get things done. Yeah, so we still need to make sure we are following the standard good practices of program and project management. And cybersecurity is a mad industry, I know that. So it's very important. We are very emotional people, but do escalate if you're not getting the right help. Yeah. And because sometimes people don't people are not responding because they're just busy, and especially in current situations. But at least as a project manager or program manager, you need to know that then it all means that you just need to plan for a longer time, because your key stakeholder doesn't have the bandwidth to do it in one day. Yeah, so that's kind of quite critical. And what you also need to be mindful and watchful about, especially in cybersecurity, that can happen to any project, but because we don't have a lot of good success stories within projects, right? So we need to kind of keep the negative emotions in the room a little bit under control. Yeah, it's not nice, and especially I think in our kind of Gulf culture, it's not considered nice to, or considered rude at some point, to not let people kind of express what they're wanting to say, but at some point you need to kind of say, okay, keep the negative emotions in check. Yeah. And also, in most projects, whether it's logging, whether it's a process, we will have a lot of we don't know moments, and it's not for the project manager or program manager to go find the answer and tell the project team that this is what you need to do, right? Oh, if you can, yes, by all means, but that's not necessarily your job. Your job is to be that driver who will ask the question, what are our options? Okay, fine, we don't know what to do. What are our options? And with a room full of specialists, they always have an option. They would either not want to mention it, or they feel scared, or they're not just confident. They may need some more time to validate. Yeah. But as a good project manager, program manager, ask the question, ask them what are our options, and then kind of help them navigate that. Because sometimes you just need that one person who will listen to you and kind of get you through that journey of your mental thoughts, right? Our thoughts are our kind of biggest enemy here, especially in the world of cyber. Oh, this can happen and that can happen. And because cybersecurity is driven by fear. Okay, so we do a lot of good stuff, but it's still driven by fear. So a lot of people stop themselves, hold the options because they are afraid, either because they might look stupid, or they might look dumb, or they just think that, oh, if I say this, I might be at risk. So as a good project manager, it's your job to kind of bring those ideas on the table. Okay, so be the driver is kind of the key piece here. And be the driver is not no new knowledge here for all of you seasoned project managers, but for cybersecurity, it just needs a little bit of that extra push and a little bit of extra kind of hand holding your project team and making sure that you're using your organizational knowledges and your communication skills to kind of bring the party together. Yeah, and keep the kind of the sad people a little bit on the side, but you have to keep an open ears to them, because sometimes some of the poor experiences from the past, they can be good lessons learned, that, oh, it failed. Because when you hear from them, from as an independent party, you kind of understand it better in the sense that, oh, it means that this was a process failure, or it means that they did not have the money, or they were not able to hire the right people, so that you can kind of foresee those project risks up ahead, right? It is important to listen to the poor experiences as well, so that you know what risks you might be kind of facing. And yeah, but don't stop them saying that, oh, we could not do this for the last 10 years and hence we cannot do this now. So if there's someone like that in the room, then probably you need to kind of have a little bit of a chat with them, saying keep the emotions in check discussion. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. I know I'm before time, Irene, but that's all that I had to share for today.
Thank you very much, Priya. Actually, I think there at the start there are some interesting thoughts that two of our attendees actually raised their hands. Unfortunately, I apologize for you guys. For who are they? It's Surjit and Consolador. They raised their hand in the middle of your presentation. However, as you can see,
sorry, I didn't see that.
Sorry. So we will give them a chance to ask their questions now. They were raising their hands earlier, but indeed, thank you for that, for the case study especially. I will reserve my question later after I give the chance to our attendees first to ask their questions. Olu, you think you can allow Surjit to ask his question? Or Surjit, would you like to type your question in the Q&A box? Also, Consolador. Okay, I'll read Consolador's question. Does the project progress along with virtual teams? If yes, was it a challenge?
Yes, this is a I said I don't use bad words, but this was a super virtual team. You have people from the UAE, you had people from the West Coast in America, and then you have people from India, the Philippines. So it's kind of like, as the project manager, one of my big tasks was to write down, okay, who is in what time zone? When can I get hold of them, right? Because I don't want to kind of set up meetings when I can't get the right people. So it was a big challenge to drive things virtually. But I don't think it was any more complex than getting people in the same room. The challenges were still the same. But one benefit I did see was, because we could keep our cameras off when we felt more emotional, we were able to handle some of the difficult conversations better, because what happens is when you're in a room full of people and you're feeling emotional about a topic, sometimes you either kind of deviate from the discussion because you're feeling emotional, or you just say, I can't be bothered, and you're just sitting there not kind of participating in the conversation. So that was a positive point, I would say, I noticed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as we wait for the others to put in their question, can I request you again, Priya, to put back the slide that talks about the roadmap, the value realization roadmap, please?
Yes, I can. Let me bring that up quickly.
And there's Surjit now. Sorry, as always, I'm just a moderator here. I always give chance to the speakers. So Surjit, go ahead, please. You can unmute. Olu, can you unmute Surjit?
I am okay. I don't have any doubt. I'm okay with the presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Surjit. Yeah. Okay, can you show the slide, Priya, the one that talks about the value?
Let me know if you can see
yes, the value realization. So when you started about telling about the 5 W's and 1 H, the who, what, when, where, why, and then the how, this slide itself answers all of those questions, the 5 W's and the 1 H. Yeah. You have here on the left the communication, and also under this is the coverage of your project, right?
Yeah.
Now, I would like to point out there are a lot of resources here in the middle. The security tool team, infrastructure team, on the second layer are the strategic team and the oversight team. So to me, those are all the who.
Yes, those are the who.
Okay, those are all the who's in the 5 W's and 1 H. My question would be, can it also be a successful project if I have a limitation in the resources, for example, the people and the budget? If I don't have that kind of structure or resources in the same kind of project, how challenging would it be? Or you think it is easier because you're dealing with limited people, limited resources, however, at least representing representing each of these swim lanes?
Yes, so definitely, see, number of people that is required for a project delivery, right? It kind of translates or in some shape relate to how big or small your organization is, right? And then there are a lot of programs and projects that happen where you are on a maturity path, right? You start small and then you grow over time. The example that I took here was kind of a mid to large organization. So they have a lot more kind of teams structured based on very specific roles. But then we have customers who have who don't have a separate DB security team. Yeah, so they're part of the SOC, for example. Yeah, as long as you can get that function or that value out of someone or a process within the organization, you can still make it work. Now, having less resources is a constant challenge within the organization. You're never going to have an ideal number of people in the team. So that's where kind of your skill sets around the time and around the prioritization will make kind of the big difference here. Yeah. And also kind of not overbooking people's time just because they're necessary. Yeah. And because a lot of the time I've seen project managers saying, okay, let me call everyone I have. Yeah. So that, we just have to be mindful about if we have kind of the time and the resource challenges there. It's just being a little bit more mindful.
Yeah. Okay. Another question that I have. Let me see. Someone's asking a question. Okay. On the same slide, this is from Abdul Khan. In the same slide, the middle layer that is shown as a strategic would be more leaning towards tactical decisions. The roles shown in the middle layer, shown as teams, do not have a role in the strategy, especially as cybersecurity landscape. Strategic decisions are always made at C level. Okay. Please elaborate your take on showcasing the middle layer as strategic.
Okay, perfect. So, so when I look at this is kind of direct reports of this, right? Yeah. So the oversight, this function here, right at the top, they will set the directions, okay, saying, you know what, I want to make sure that this happens. So the statement from CISO will only be like, I want to have everything monitored. Okay. But what decisions need to happen? How many people need to happen? Like how many people you need for the next 1 year and things. This is really kind of the decision-making team. This is where the decision forms take shape. Yeah. Now there is definitely a room where if it's a slightly smaller organization than what I have here in the case study, and just to kind of set some context here, right? So this is really a kind of a slightly, I would not say large, but it's kind of a on the higher side of mid to large, lower side of large type organization. So there was a lot more kind of delegation here, but in slightly smaller. But from a strategic perspective, this is where most of the decisions kind of get formed. These people just put their stamp on the end of the day after some deliberation, after saying, okay, I don't have this much budget and all of that stuff. But the strategic layer here, they are the ones who set the direction, who set this is how the things needs to move. Yeah. So that's how I kind of see this as.
Okay. Thank you. Abdul Khan, did that answer your question? What is, he has another follow-up question. What is strategic and how is tactical? Who is operational?
Okay, operational is anyone who is hands on keyboard, let's say hands on keyboard, eyes on screen type. So who are working the day-to-day jobs? So that would be your kind of the DB admins, your VMware administrator, system administrator, the security operations analyst, those teams, they would be considered as operational. And also your GRC analysts, your change managers, things like that, they would be considered operational. So these are the people who are doing all the running all day. Yeah. Now, obviously, in some organizations, you have a bit of a gray area between you have your operational role and a little bit of management role. But in this case, the operational team is only who are doing the work. They don't make decisions. They don't do anything except for, yeah, I'm just going to put one command before the other, but they just execute. They don't have a role as big a role in terms of making any key decisions there. So that's operational purely. And strategic is where they would take both tactical and strategic decisions, but this layer is kind of the decision makers here. The first layer of the decision makers, they would typically be like your head offs of the function in a slightly sizable organization, or a senior manager in the team. So those titles would typically fall under the strategic kind of layer there. And this is something that is most relevant for this use case here, but it may happen that in your organization this layer might look a little different. That's also possible, okay? But I'm just sharing what we kind of did in this specific use case.
Yeah, as I can see, the strategic is also the tactical, and the operation is the operation itself. And on the right side, the DB team, being strategic and tactical, oversees the DBAs.
Yes.
And DB security. The audit compliance team management on the strategic or tactical oversees the operational, which is audit and compliance officer.
Yes, exactly.
Suresh, Suresh has a question. One of the challenge for such projects are convincing the management to adapt to latest technology, as many of them are having less technical knowledge but not willing to spend money in this part of the world. So, it's like, I want this, but I can only buy this. So how do you comment on that? And then after that, I'll have another follow-up question from Abdul Khan.
Sure, perfect. So that is kind of, I think, it's more like a bread and butter question, I would say, right? So it's as common as bread and butter. So no one has money for cybersecurity. It's just they say that, oh, you know what? I know you need all sorts of tools, and because we have so many tools available, so many vendors, it's just a constant challenge, right? And it's not just availability of the solution. A lot of the times we also come under kind of a lot of peer pressure as well, that, oh, I think we should have this kind of situation, but it all ends up being, how do you define that value, right? And this is where, as cybersecurity professionals, I think we ourselves need to do a little bit of better job there, because and again, I can go on talking about it for the days, but we are good at explaining the technical value that the solution will bring, but we don't necessarily always do a good job in terms of, if I get the logs, what value am I going to add to the organization? So we don't talk about getting better visibility of on the operations. We don't talk about how it would help the business get more business, because right now a lot of the businesses are driven, especially if talking about like commercial organizations, if they have a security edge or they are certified, it gives them a lot more business than their competitor who may not have an equal amount of better security, right? So those kind of things we need to think, and all you need to do is drink coffee with your business managers. That's one big thing I've learned, that you have to learn how to go and drink coffee, or
rub elbows.
Yes, rub elbows, rub noses with your business partners. And business partners is your business users. Go talk to finance, go talk to marketing, go talk to others, and they will tell you exactly where you can add value. They understand the value, they just don't understand why you want to spend the 10 million for a tool. So that is just that. So you will have to take a little bit of effort. And it's like when my kids come and ask me, Mama, I need you to buy me some card for a game. And I'm like, well, you're just going to buy some stupid virtual avatars, right? So I would not first like go and approve them straight away. So it's a bit like that. So unless they convince me, so that's kind of where it is.
Okay, so sure. I think there is something else that Abdul would like to clarify in him. In terms, we're on the middle layer, still the strategic one. So in the sorry, I lost my camera. In the strategic layer, it answers the how, but not the what. Could you address the what part of it, please? Being strategic and tactical, the middle part of this
here,
value realization rollout.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll take some examples here, and I'm going to take you to this picture here, right? Okay. And I want to kind of want you to think about the picture we had in the previous slide, but kind of focus on here. So here we have a lot of part around definition, a lot of part around the launching, right? So when we talk about defining anything in the organization, right, a large part comes around roles and responsibilities, right? And one of the big challenges that we always or most of the time face, and those of you who are in the world of IT and cybersecurity would know that no one wants to take responsibility. They say, no, I have got too much work. I don't want to do this. Why are you not giving this to audit? They are better placed to do this, right? So there's always, they want to shift the responsibility. So who will make those decisions? What is it that you want from? These are the guys who will kind of stamp that, yeah, my team is going to take that responsibility. So what? I have got the logs. Now, you are thinking in your mind as the project manager or the vendor is saying, I think your SOC should monitor it. But is the SOC manager agreeing? Is the security tooling team agreeing that, yes, I will look at the logs? So that is where the role of these people come in place. So when you say that, yes, I have a new process, which team will do, what they will do, what is the SLA they're committing to, that is where all the decisioning comes in place. So if you think about any security project, right, some shape or form, there will be a new process or change to a process, right? So this is right now the case study is about logging and monitoring. If I take a parallel example of any GRC solution or a vulnerability assessment solution, right? End of the day, someone has to take responsibility of doing something with that, right? Whether it's to support it or to consume the data out of it and to do. So if I talk about vulnerability management, which is, I think most organizations do to large extent, then the security team should agree to do the scan. The IT team should agree to fix the issue, vulnerabilities or the issues identified. And then the GRC team should agree to monitor and report on that, right? So all this, who will do? This layer will do. These guys will do too. CISO will come and say, okay, I need vulnerability management, take this 1 million and do something about it, right? Who is going to get things done? These guys, because these people are there just coming to office, doing the work and going. They will only do when these people will say, now from tomorrow, you will start doing this extra work as well.
Okay, thank you, Priya. Interesting. I have another question here from Taha. Mostly, the value for such projects are intangible. In terms of showing value, how can we show value? But before that, can you tell, because we have some attendees here and PMPs here who are not managing IT projects, much more cybersecurity projects. Very succinctly, could you please just give a brief description succinctly about a logging and monitoring rollout project? And we are talking about databases here. So databases are the ones that hold the information, right, of every application and systems. So in terms of logging and monitoring, this is very important. So in terms of the value, I'd like you after explaining briefly, just for a better understanding of our other project managers here who are not on the IT or cyber, just explain that briefly and then follow with Taha's question. How, in terms of the value, how can you show the value of this project? Intangible.
Yeah, the intangibles, right? So yeah, the magic is to make the intangible look tangible, right? I'll come to that in a bit. So for those who are not from the world of IT or not from the world of cybersecurity, so like I mentioned, database is like, if you think in a kitchen, is like where you store all your food grains, right? So the database is what holds all of our data. So if you think about banks, all our account information, all our money information is in the databases. If you think about your phones at Tisaladdu, our phone information, what's happening, how much we are billing, how much, who am I calling, all that information is stored in a database. Yeah, so any data goes to the database. It's like your food container in the kitchen. Yeah, so you store all your grocery there. Then now, why is it important to, what is logging and monitoring? Let me start with defining that, right? To logging, logging, if you think of your cars, let me take an example of a car, right? And for those who have, so when you go for your car servicing, right, they will take out a register. Okay, this is the kilometers, this is the amount of fuel. They will create a log, right? So they will create a log when you drop the car and when you take out the car, they will have a log in the register. So now what we do in the system, there's a lot of people coming in and out of the database on a regular basis by every second, right? What do we do? The system also creates a log. The system is very clever. The system has a very quicker way of creating log. Oh, Priyanka came in, Irene came in. All these different people have logged into Zoom. So this is my log. And this is what Priyanka was trying to do on this system, right? So that is the log, right? And monitoring is monitoring. So someone will look at the logs and see, okay, Priyanka has done this thing. This is when she came in. This is when she took out. This is the activity that she did. She called these many people and she did this many transactions, all of that stuff, right? So that's what logging and monitoring will help you. Now, what is the value for the business or from cybersecurity perspective? Because we have a lot of attacks going on, and it is important for the organization to know what's happening on the database, what activities are happening. Is it good? Is it not good? Right? So it's like how if you are in a parking, let me take a parking example, right? So you may have a car parked there, but is it authorized parking, unauthorized parking? Are they parking overnight? What's happening, right? So good, bad behavior. How do you determine without knowing what are they doing, right? So that's why logging and monitoring is important not only from a cyber perspective, but also for troubleshooting and your systems perspective. When your system goes down, your IT guy first goes and checks the log. Oh, what happened? What did the system just do? Why is it having a problem? So they will go and check the log, right? So that's why it is very important that you have this control, especially on the databases, because that is where all your important stuff is in the system, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the value is.
Value. Yeah.
Now, yeah. So I'm going to take a pause there and see if there's any question, or else I'll go to the tangible and intangible.
Yeah, if I may also just add on that, because as for Taha's question, basically when it comes to cybersecurity projects or the operational one, you are securing the CIA, the confidentiality, integrity, and the availability of your information. Those information are residing in the database. Having a logging and monitoring in place allows you to act proactively and to secure the data ahead of time before any incidents of hacking or a data compromise happens. So, sorry, my small intake, Priya, sorry for taking that.
No, that's fine.
Value that this, that intangible projects, as you say, not a return in terms of money or financial matter. However, that is about gaining trust of your customers. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, your customers feel more confident, you feel more confident as kind of a manager or as a people, right? That, see, everyone, when you are faced with a problem, yeah, so you buy insurance. Why do you buy insurance? Because not because we know we'll die, but because we want some level of protection. If we die, we take care of someone, right? So that's what. Or if I have a health problem, I have some coverage to get myself treated. So that's why you buy insurance. It's a bit like that. But what happens definitely, because especially in this time when pretty much everything is digital and online and everything, and customers, like, they switch providers like this, right? And the number of providers is increasing as well, right, by the day. Like, how many food delivery apps you have? Tons of them, right? So the more secure you are, the customers feel a lot better with you. If you are a bank who is losing data and who is losing money like anything, I'm not going to open my bank account there, am I? So that is why it is kind of all important to do that. Now, I know that it is, and that's where I said that as cyber professionals, we need to get better at speaking business language. Yeah. And that can only happen when we put some effort, go and meet the business. But not go and fight them. Just go and learn what they're trying to do. Learn their terms. When you use their terms, they will definitely accept your intangibles a lot more. But in terms of this project, right, what is important is you have to define, when you do the value, then you have to also define what is it that you're going to deliver out of the project, right? So if it is getting better security for databases, what is it that is going to give to the business? And when I say business, it's your head of retail, head of commercial banking, head of whoever, right? So you need to think of them. What is it that they're going to ask you? Or head of finance.
Yeah, thank you for that, Priya. And I have a comment here from Suresh. It's a valid point because since we started working from home during the pandemic period to protect the system, so very valid of having a logging and monitoring system. And before we close out, I just want to read as well another comment from Abdul Khan. These are tactical decisions and not strategic. Strategy is mapped with vision and mission of an organization, and not to decide about what tools to buy and how to use them. Tooling, procurement, usage, and operational decisions are all tactical to drive operation. If I can say my take on that, this is a case study, Abdul Khan, and therefore it could be how the project is structured in terms of the organizational resources. Very valid. Yes, that is very true. That tactical is not strategic, and strategic is not the tactical. And people could wear different hats, or different people could wear different hats. But in certain organizations, in the terms of limitation of resources, they can wear both hats. I think Priya.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Totally agree with that. And that's what happened. Like I said, right, this is slightly larger organization. So they have like one person they wear multiple hats, but more specific hats. But then, especially in our region, right, in the Gulf, you'll see that there's one IT manager and he's doing pretty much IT and security and, if possible, the operations
and operation,
and
programming.
Else, right? Exactly. So everything. So photocopy also he does. So that's kind of, it depends from organization to organization, and that picture might look very different to how your organization is. What is the definition? What is the roles and responsibility there? So, but what my aim is kind of not getting fixated with this picture, but kind of just the thought process that you need to come up with what is it that will look like. What does your end picture look like? You need to have that picture in mind, basically.
Yes, and very interesting questions and thought-provoking questions from our attendees here, Suresh, Abdul Khan, Syed. Okay, thank you very much. We know we don't have any other questions, and there are a lot of key takeaways that we have received from you, Priyanka. Thank you very much for spending your time giving us this valuable information. But so before we end this session, we also would like to invite you for another webinar on Thursday, September 8th. Our speaker will be Dr. Greg Skolmowski, And he will talk about Shields Up Hybrid Project Management.
Oh,
Yeah, you may visit the events page of the PMI UAE website to register. We also would like to invite anyone else here attending who are not yet PMI UAE chapter members. We still have our $20 promo to be a member of PMI UAE. That's an annual fee. Please visit our website to register and be part of a growing PMI UAE chapter. So as we close this webinar tonight, I would like to thank you all, our attendees, for your participation and presence here. We won't also say goodnight without saying thank you to the rest of the PMI UAE chapter volunteers who are always behind the successful webinars. And this includes our colleagues from the membership, the outreach, volunteering, and finance and governance. Until our next webinar, together with my colleague behind the camera, Olumide, this is Irene Corpus, wishing you all a pleasant evening.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good night. Take care.